Welcome to the Aim for Success podcast. I'm Joni Neidigh, a licensed psychotherapist and certified clinical hypnotist and trainer. I'm also the founder of Aim for Success and Joni Neidigh Hypnosis. I've been practicing for over 27 years, and I'm excited about sharing my experiences and those of my guests. Be sure and check out my websites, aim-for-success.com and JoniNeidighHypnosis.com to learn more about my services and products. I also invite you to check out my store, aim-store.net. As a gift to you for listening to this podcast, use the code SUCCESS to receive 25% off your first self-hypnosis audio purchase. You are listening to episode 2 of the Aim for Success podcast featuring Coach Jon Sakovich. Jon is an extremely accomplished swimmer and coach. Listen and enjoy as Jon and I have a conversation about his interesting journey in the sport of swimming, the mental toughness required, and his appreciation for training the mental side of the sport. So hello, everyone. I'm so excited because this is my second podcast. I was really excited about the idea of doing it. And after our first podcast, I was even more excited and, due to the response that we got. So I just love having these conversations, these casual conversations with great people who have these nuggets of information and advice and inspiration that help other people. So today I have with me, and I'm so excited, Jon Sakovich, and I'm going to tell you just a little bit about him and then have him share some of his story, especially the beginnings, because it's just so intriguing the way that he got started. And being that I'm so invested in the mental side of not only sports, but life, I just have always been impressed by this story. Just for starters, and if you look him up, by the way, it'll tell you who he is, a competitive swimmer, but he's a former competitive swimmer who has represented Guam and the United States at international events. At the 1988 Olympics, he represented Guam, and I'm trying to get this right, where he set the Guam records in the 400-meter, 1,500-meter freestyle events and the 400-meter individual medley. So Jon went on to swim for the University of Florida and began his coaching after that, his career, and I'll have him talk about that since I'm just doing my best to make sure that my fact finding is correct. So, but again, I think our conversation today will be about his background, partly part of his career, what was most outstanding to him so far, and also just some of the information that he can pass on that will help whoever's watching, whether you're an athlete, just someone interested in sports, a parent, or another coach. So, hello, Jon. Say hello to our audience. I'm so happy to have you today.
Well, I'm excited to be here, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to share with everybody. I think the mental side of training for both the athletes and coaches and just anybody in general is so important. So thank you very much for allowing me this opportunity.
Well, you're certainly an important voice in not only the sport of swimming, but I think that you have a lot to offer people in general. So can you start with telling people about this kind of amazing start that you had in terms of training? I often hear when I work with athletes, they struggle with focus, but also they tend to focus on environmental things. And that's just one of those, kind of paths that they get off on. But, your story is just so great. I use it in so many different ways, but I share your story because when I hear the complaints, and sort of the bully, I call it, in their brains,
right,
I I really like sharing that story to show them that the environment isn't as important as they think. So yeah, share with everyone the great training environment that you had.
Well, I think I was very fortunate to have an excellent training environment, in that even though we didn't realize that we were really training the mental side of a lot of our training, but we were taught at a young age the can-do attitude. And my parents were my coaches most of my life up until high school age. And I grew up on the island of Saipan, which is a little tiny island out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. No 50-meter pool, no 25-meter pool, no competition pool of any sort. We trained in a kidney-shaped hotel pool. And when I say kidney-shaped, I mean it looked exactly like a kidney bean. So it was 20 meters down the exact center, 17 and 16 meters on the side, because it was curved shape. We did not have flags. We did not have black lines on the bottom. We did not have lane ropes. So we had to swim. We had 5 groups or 5 rows, and we circle swam, and somehow no concussions, no injuries, no head crashes, nothing. I don't know how we did it. We always joke that we developed some type of a underwater sonar that nobody else had. And,
you probably did.
We might have. I mean, we
Yeah.
had to have. So as I said, it was at a hotel, and so obviously there were tourists there, and they would get in and swim alongside us or around us. And when it got too crowded, we go out to the beach and swim out there. So until I was the age of 14, about 14 or 15, I did not train in a regular competition pool. So it always kind of strikes a nerve when kids complain that their lanes are too crowded, or the pool sucks, or it's not a nice pool or facility. It's kind of like, well, okay, at least you have lanes and flags and black lines and you can swim straight. We had none of that. We did go to Guam for competitions, and they did have a 50-meter pool and a 25-meter pool. So at least we did get to compete in that. But, with all that, we were still one of the top teams in the area. And we did produce numerous top 16 national age groupers throughout our time.
That is so impressive. It's so impressive. So that's really that is a great thing to be able to share with everyone, because I think it's just so true that we take for granted all of the things that we do have, in our environments, and just this story clearly indicates that we need a whole lot less than we think we do to be great and to be good.
Oh, absolutely.
The thing that we really need is here, right?
It's upstairs. Exactly.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, there's even a story, I don't know, it was back in the 50s or maybe even earlier than that, on the island of Maui. There was a coach that produced some Olympians, and they trained in a ditch on the side of the road. I forget if you look it up, it's like the Ditch Boys or something like that.
Wow.
But there's just example after example of that thing, and it just really comes down to utilizing what you have, and the most important thing you have is up here.
Right. And so that was great mental training from a very young age, right?
Absolutely. And we didn't even realize that we were being mentally trained, because we'd go to Guam and compete, and everybody had the nice pools and this and that, and until really we didn't even swim in Speedo suits. We practiced in board shorts because it was too expensive to get competition suits until we actually got to the competition. So we did it. We survived, and we did pretty well at the same time. So can't complain. I have to thank my parents for that mental teaching that they provided not only myself but the rest of my teammates, and just look, you can do it. Just go out there and do it.
You should thank your parents, because maybe they'll watch this. And I'm sure you have.
I know they will.
And I'm sure they do know, because you are a man. You've always shown great appreciation. And I personally have never known you to be a complainer. And, I'm fortunate in that you coached both of my girls in high school. and not just in the sport of swimming, but in the game of life. And there always, I mean, if you're in high school, you're going to have challenging times. It doesn't matter who you are. So,
Absolutely.
but I think that's always been one of your strengths, is you notice things. And I talk about that a lot in, what I do, is how important it is to have awareness and to sharpen our awareness and always be doing that, because otherwise we're going to miss out. We're not going to notice something that's really important. And it's not always the thing that we think is important to help make someone great. That thing that's right in front of us, but the thing that we're willing to just dig a little bit deeper, or maybe be just a little bit more approachable, so that we can be there for that swimmer, that athlete, that person.
No, absolutely. And I think too many times we get caught up on the physical aspects of what's in front of us, and we forget to just truly appreciate what we love and what we enjoy doing. Not only swimming. I mean, I swam competitively for 18 years at the national and the international level. I mean, that's a lot of swimming.
That is.
8 of it being, really actually about 10 to 12 of it being at the higher level, high school and college, and then post grad. And to this day, I don't regret any of it. I mean, I know there's some mistakes I made that I wish I could take back, but overall, I don't regret it. Going into coaching was, at first I didn't want to do it because of the hard work and the hours, but as I realized that my time as an athlete was coming to an end, I had to make a decision on what to do. And, wearing a suit to work every day was not appealing to me.
Right.
So, and I had a hard time giving up swimming. So coaching was the next best thing. And even then, I mean, I'm made mistakes and learned from them, but, overall, I enjoyed it. 22 years of coaching, is a lot, and that's a lot of hours, a lot of weekends given up. And, I've enjoyed all of it. I look forward to continuing coaching. And I think, what's really kept me going is just the enjoyment of the sport of swimming and coaching and swimming itself, and not worried about, the physical aspects, or, this kid was rotten today, or that kid was amazing today, or any of that. But just, there's so many ups and downs in life that, if we react and overthink everything,
Right.
life is worthless. Enjoying the little pieces and truly, just being in the moment and happy for what you've accomplished, what you're doing is beyond amazing.
That what you're saying is so true. And I talk to a lot of athletes that they start to lose their passion for the sport. And fortunately, we can process that and see a couple of things, that maybe they want to take a break from the sport, which is an okay thing to do. Or maybe
Absolutely.
They don't want to, maybe they don't really want to be in the sport. That's something that we find out, that, oftentimes kids can be, pushed, or athletes can be pushed to continue, or sometimes they just need a little something.
Right. And, I've had numerous athletes that have come to me and said, oh, I think I'm burned out, or I don't like swimming, or whatever it is. And the first question I ask them is, what is it you love? What is it you want to do?
Yes.
And if they don't have an answer, then, the first task I give them is, well, you got to find that first.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them, they still love swimming. They've just gotten distracted by the competitions, making specific qualifying times, college scholarships, winning, losing championships. It's just get out there and enjoy the race, enjoy the competition, enjoy, pushing yourself to your limits, and, and seeing what you can really do. Some days you win, some days you don't.
Absolutely. And I think that's something that your parents, you mentioned when we were talking Monday, that they didn't do. They did. It wasn't, you weren't focused on just winning.
Yes. Well, I mean, for a while, my dad was kind of focused on the winning, but I think,
Oh,
deep down, he it wasn't bad. I mean, I didn't get yelled at and screamed at and every time, but there was kind of that focus. And, over time, I think he realized that, that wasn't the way to go. And, both of them, for the most part, have been, look, you got to enjoy what you're doing. You got to work hard. You got to appreciate it. And, if not, do something else. And,
absolutely.
and they both live to that, like that to this day is, we're going to go out there, we're going to work hard, we're going to enjoy what we're doing, or we're going to find something else that we enjoy doing and we're going to work hard at.
Well, you're clearly a hard worker. I remember seeing you when you weren't at the pool, you were at Starbucks. That was your office, right? And
yes,
you weren't hard to
is.
find. That was the only thing, if you were trying to hide from parents or, anybody else, that was not a great place because we knew we found out your secret. I used to frequent there just to ask you questions, but you always had a book in your hand, and it was always, maybe not always, but often it was just something more about swimming or learning about, how to better yourself as a coach and maybe, help the athletes better themselves as well. I was always impressed with that.
There's so much that we can learn through so many other venues, not just swimming.
Yeah.
I like to read about coaches in other sports, how they handle the athletes, how they set goals, how they set their philosophy, even business. It all comes down to the same thing. We're all out there trying to survive.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what everything comes down to. Some of us are more successful than others. Sometimes it's luck, sometimes it's skill, but ultimately, it's looking forward and continuing to push forward. I think one of the more interesting facts I heard about 10 years ago was, based on the number of millionaires in the U.S. And how many of them went completely broke. Not just, we don't have the nice yachts, but broke living out of their car and were able to come back successfully. And then how many of them went broke twice? It was, 75%, it was 75%. I mean, that's a pretty high number of people that, got to the top, fell down and climbed back up again. And then a bunch of them fell down again.
Wow.
So, it's all about the process.
You're absolutely right. I'm glad you used that word. I think back to, you coached my daughter to her biggest championship in high school, junior nationals championship.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never forget that. That was an exciting race. That's one of the
that was awesome.
How many miles do you see that are actually that tight? I mean, at that level,
but
yeah.
not often, not very often.
But I think you did a great job even back then at, coaching that, teaching that process. And what I loved in college at her speech, the speech that she gave, it talked about the process and how many chances you get achieving all of those goals that she had, not only during that fourth year, but, and this is the part I love, and I think you will too, it's something that the mile affords in one swim.
Right.
And so if someone had an attitude going into a last swim like that, oh, well, I'm going to just try to do the best I can, and see what I can come up with, because, I'm done after this. It would have been much different than saying, you know what, I've got one more opportunity. And I think that all of those little pieces, and I like the way she described it, connecting the dots. I steal this all the time. I admit it. And I admit it to her. I hope she watches this. I know she will because you're on it. But connecting the dots, all of those, just backing up to what you were saying earlier about all those mistakes. We sort of mentioned regret, but we really can't regret that stuff, because I really think it all matters. I think we're not even exactly sure at this point, when things are going better or they're going well, how that contributed, but I do believe it all contributes. And yeah.
I mean, I think, regret is the only regret is it's not giving your 100%,
Yeah.
and if you're constantly regretting that, then you've got to change something. I mean, we've all had opportunities, and we've all messed up, and we've all failed, or we've all not tried hard enough. I mean, I had a race where I lost out on a free trip to Italy with Team USA because I didn't finish my race the way I was supposed to. And I swam for second place and ended up getting third. And, I didn't even see the guy go by me. I was so busy watching someone else. If I had just swum to win it, I would have got second and gotten an opportunity to go to Italy and compete for Team USA. But, I learned from it.
Yeah.
You never know when that's your last opportunity. So it's just going out there, giving it 100% best effort for yourself, and not worrying about, I might look bad, or I might this or that. Well, you're worried about looking bad. Watch TV. I mean, there's a lot of looking bad on TV.
Absolutely. I love that.
You watch pro sports, and the day after a game, ESPN, for example, is always coming out going, oh man, I can't believe the quarterback did this, or the wide receiver did that, and they're in front of millions of people.
Right.
So for us at a swim meet to mess up, there's not millions of people watching unless you're at the Olympics.
True.
But even then, everybody appreciates an honest effort. Everybody respects and appreciates an honest effort.
Right. And the thing I've always said is, you can fool other people, but you can't fool yourself. I think that,
absolutely.
Yeah, when you haven't made that honest effort, it. And, there's just a part of you that it won't let you get away with it, because you're not satisfied, because that it could have been better. And I'm glad we're on this subject right now, because one of the things that I like to do is encourage and athletes and help coaches teach athletes the importance of practice. The mental part they need to be training is to give that 100%, because it can be like, oh, it's just another day, another practice. And then I try to take your language that would come from you, come from because it needs to sound like you, right? If you're coaching that particular team, that athlete. So getting on the same page, to me, became an important idea. And so that's where all my assessment that's in this, very simple guide that I use, and all of the audios, they incorporate coaches' language. And if I work with athletes to, on their affirmations, I want to know, when your coach compliments you, what does it sound like? Because then I have those words. And when your coach needs to, give you feedback, and I try to emphasize that word instead of what they think it is,
Right.
Then what does that sound like? So that they can get familiar with that process, but also that it's like that we're a team. So.
Absolutely. And sports these days is so much more than just the coach and the athlete. I mean, it's the nutritionist, it's the doctor, it's the dryland coach, it's the mental coach, it's the rehab person, it's the parents, it's the person. I mean, there's so much more to it. It can be a whirlwind, and I think to have to bring in people like we brought you in to help out, leading up to our state championships a number of years is huge, because I can't know everything. That's just too much information, and I think somebody who can specialize in it and do a really good job and come in and help the kids be successful and retrain their brains is so important.
And I really, really, really want to emphasize this today, because I'm teaching other hypnotherapists and hypnotists and mental health practitioners how to work with athletes, because I enjoy it. I enjoy seeing results. And again, those results can be a myriad of things, not just times. It can be,
Right.
that they
Absolutely.
didn't get angry or upset or have a meltdown, for one whole meet, and that's a great start. Or they were able to celebrate what went right and things like that. But, I'm very picky about who I'm training because I want them to have an appreciation for not just the sport of swimming, but any sport they might be working with. I want them to have as much passion to get the result as that athlete does, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
and the best sources of information can be the athlete, of course, is very important, but coaches and parents.
And I think to add on to that is if you don't know the answer, to seek help.
Right.
And that's
That's
always
right.
a big one.
It was really great. I really appreciated that you did bring me in and that you provided that for the athletes, because they seemed to really enjoy learning about, I was able to teach them a little bit about the brain, but I didn't sound like they're the teacher that they just got out of class with.
Right. Right.
and demonstrate things that where they had kind of a wow moment or an aha moment, and then also gain trust, because I think sometimes I would say things out loud that they were thinking, but they had never verbalized, and that's okay.
Right.
Sometimes it's just, helping them understand this is normal,
Right.
And I always try to be sensitive, as if I have something like that myself that week or that day, because I step into that room, with that mindset. And what I loved is all I had to do was, I knew a little background because we had talked about how the season was going,
Right. Right.
but and then I knew based on that, there could be maybe some thoughts that they would want to clear, maybe some what ifs and things like that. And all I had to do was say, you don't have to say it out loud, but just close your eyes. And I want you to see yourself packing 2 suitcases. Well, one would be your swim bag, and it would have, all of the things that you could probably do in your sleep because you've gone to so many travel meets, right?
Yep.
But in that other bag, you're going to go down this mental checklist. And I have one of those actually for athletes before they go to competition. And it works really well, because what that does is, when they go through their list and they go, okay, I've got my check, I've got my goggles, I've got my suit, I've got this, I've got that. Well, on the mental checklist, you get a chance to look at all of the things that you've done to prepare leading up to this point. So you can just pack that away, knowing that you have it. You don't need to look at it again, especially the Bulls kids, they knew a lot from, especially the ones that had been there the year previous, and we'd had multiple sessions and then this. But I said, now then I tell them, look around in that bag now that it's all packed and see if there's anything you might have put in there that you don't want or you want less of.
Right. Right.
And that could include, and then I give them some examples. As soon as I did that, somebody said out loud, we're afraid we might lose. Okay. Well, who doesn't have that thought? And I tell athletes, that is not going to go away. It's going to come up, but you can simply expect it and confront it head on and just say, you know what? I knew you were coming, that thought, but I have at least 20 things I can do to get rid of it, to get rid of you. And so that day, that's what we did. And, I almost got in trouble. I remember because I kept them a little long. But
that was okay.
I know.
You
didn't mind. I know, right? But that's, those are just the kinds of things that I love to do, because they can do it on their own. I didn't need to be there, but they wouldn't know to do that unless someone taught them. And coaches are certainly capable of teaching these kinds of things. And so I'm really excited about sharing that also with other practitioners and coaches, that there's so much you can do on the mental side. And I would certainly encourage everyone to incorporate not just talking about confidence and, the usual suspects, but giving them real techniques that they can use to figure out how to get that, Because if you just say, oh, it's all mental, or you just need confidence, they're like, yeah,
Well,
great.
how do I get it?
How do I get it? That's right.
Right,
So,
right.
yeah. So I think it's important to have both. Have a resource, someone like me, but also just by having a toolbox of just very simple things that take you 10 minutes to tell an athlete, which you already know, many of.
Right.
Wow, that's just such a game changer, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, any, and as I said, it's not just sports, it's business, it's personal. I mean, I've even used I guess for lack of a better term, a mental coach in the past.
Yeah.
Um, because yeah, you can think it, you can read books about it, you can read the internet, but sometimes you just need that one-on-one discussion with somebody to help you work through it.
Yeah.
And and anytime you can get help, it just strengthens your toolbox. It just makes you that much better as a person. And if you can't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else. And I'm a firm believer that you've got to help yourself out in order to help out others. And when you can come in strong and confident and believing in what you're doing, those that you're coaching or affecting or managing or taking care of are going to be that much better.
Absolutely. Well, I want to tell you how much I appreciate the times that you listened to me when I was calling you many times over the course of how many years? Because, I had
A long
the two.
time.
Yeah, it's a long time.
There's always a light at the end of the tunnel somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's always hoping that next turn is going to be better. Not just hoping, but working
Mhm.
towards improving that next turn and making it better.
Yeah.
So
I
no,
agree
it's
with that.
I mean, we definitely have our rough days and we have our great days, and for the most part, it's the great days that we remember.
But the payoff, oh my Lord, you look at the practice and I always refer to swimming as a riot now, a ridiculous investment of time and money.
Yes.
I joke with parents about that because it's A, true, and B, it just makes it a little lighthearted and funny because
Right.
it needs to be. But this is hard. It's hard to watch when the payoff doesn't come. But,
Oh, yes.
you know, getting athletes and people to recognize that sometimes there are other payoffs that we're not paying attention to. We just have to be really careful, how much we just focus on what's
Everything
going
else.
wrong. Yeah. What's not
Right.
going right.
Right.
What we don't have, we have what I don't have. I'm Jon Sakovich, and I'm 14, 15 years old, and I have a kidney shaped pool and at a resort, and other people have this. You did not do that,
We didn't have a choice. We weren't allowed to do that.
You didn't have a
But
choice, but you could have mentally upset yourself knowing that
absolutely. Absolutely.
others did have a choice. In fact, they had that thing.
And I felt like it gave us a competitive advantage because, we had to overcome more difficulties and, lack of equipment and other things that they may not have. And, it's, like you said, it's okay. What can we celebrate today? And, I try to set out a goal of every day to accomplish at least one thing. It might be something as simple as getting the laundry done.
Right.
But at least once it's done, I feel like I've accomplished something. And once you accomplish something, you feel better about yourself. And it can lead to a snowball rolling downhill. First it's one thing, then it's two things, then it's three things. And, before you know it, you're on a roll. And that's the same with the athletes. I try to tell them, one thing that you can accomplish today or this week, 1% rule. I love that. The 1% rule. It doesn't look like very much. It's not very difficult, but when you put it all together, it's huge.
Oh, that's great. I'm glad you brought that up. I like that. So what do you think? You think maybe that coaches should take their athletes to a kidney shaped pool somewhere and train for a while, give them an experience? I mean, honestly, I think I
I have
think
a
it might.
feeling a lot of the athletes are gonna revolt.
Well, they might revolt, but I always think that, just changing up the environment and having a different experience is good. One great recent example, this wasn't planned, but university, the conference, oh my goodness, you'll know this. Is it Mountain Pacific?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that conference. I was actually out there for that conference and had the pleasure of being with the University of Hawaii, and of course San Diego is there. Dave Marsh is out there, but those athletes, especially coming from Hawaii, just imagine they're coming to California, and they've learned in advance that the pool, the indoor natatorium, the indoor pool that they were expecting to compete in was no longer available. And so there had to make a change. And so they were swimming at, I don't remember the exact name, but it's like a park-ish,
Right.
recreational. Yeah. But I mean, the pool was 25 meters, but it was outside. And and as luck would have it,
Right.
it was freezing. And I know because I wore 2 coats, that was really important to prepare those athletes and help them, have a different perspective. Otherwise, you get this group think, and you get this mentality that you start thinking about what's going on at other conferences, how they have it. It's warm and fuzzy, inside, right, and all of the advantages. And, the kind of the perspective and the way I approached it was to think about how when they get to NCAAs, not if, but when.
When, right.
How amazing is that going to feel? It's going to have a different feel, just like putting on a suit, a tech suit, or shaving, right?
Right.
And so, so taking something that, unexpected, one of those uncontrollables, and shifting that into something that will make a difference later, or just realizing that you can swim fast outside when it's cold. And thankfully, many of them learned that, not just on those teams, but certainly University of Hawaii did, because guess what?
They won them both.
They did. That was great, wasn't it? Yeah.
That was absolutely fun.
Yeah.
A lot of fun to see.
Yeah, I was happy to see it. That's a great coach too, by the way. A great person, Dan.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So, yeah. I'd like to do an interview with him over there.
I know, really.
Right. Don't you think that Dan should have us come out and do a team talk?
I think so. I think it'd be a great idea.
Yeah, I'll make sure I tag him, in this. So
yes.
So he feels a little pressure, just a little pressure.
Right. So, let him know we really want to come out and help him.
And by the way, I mean, you talked about how many years you were coaching. You were at Bowls for 19 years. Is that right?
Pretty close. 18 and a half.
Okay. That's pretty close. And then
quite a while.
And you became head coach and you won all of your seasons. And so congratulations to you for that.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
And and for meeting all the challenges that come with such a huge responsibility and position, and I do know that not everyone understands the depth of that, but I want you to know I appreciate that. And good job.
Well, thank you. No, it's, I mean, as with anything that's performed, I mean, it's like Michael Phelps stepping up to the block. Everyone expects him to win. He may not win everything, and he didn't, but that expectation is there. And if you allow it to get to you, it can wear on you and mess with your head. And, he even had to, get his mind straight because of all the expectations on him. So it's tough. I mean, it's tough when there's that pressure.
And just because other people expect you to do something, doesn't mean that you have to meet those expectations. You simply have to do your best,
Right. And it comes down to whether you're coaching at Bowls or you're Michael Phelps getting up on the blocks. It just comes down to getting out there and doing your job. I mean, it's as simple as that.
What, So what stands out in your mind? Like, what are some of the highlights so far? Because you're not finished yet with
Nope.
your career. And yeah, and I'm excited to see what the future holds for you, by the way. And I'm really excited. I think change is really important. I think pursuing goals and just trying different things it just keeps us fresh and keeps us moving and keeps us in a good place. So
It absolutely does, and I'm excited about the future as well, and making this change in my life. I mean, I know there's people out there that would be terrified, um, but I think it comes down to is just believing that it'll work out. Maybe not right away, maybe not as quick as you want it to, but you got to put down some work, and we'll be fine. As far as highlights, of coaching, I think, obviously winning state titles for bowls and taking kids to Olympic trials and junior nationals and winning junior national titles is great. But I think also watching, those kids on the team that aren't very good, but still put forth that honest effort, show up to practice every day, try to do everything you ask them, and they hit those big time drops. It's just, I think just the look on their face, that happiness, that excitement when they accomplish something that they didn't think was possible or that they've been striving for a while is just, I think that's the best part of coaching. I mean, I don't care if it's the fastest kid or the slowest kid. They put in the work, they put in the effort, and, something good happens. It just makes you feel good.
I sure do love hearing that because, one of the first thing I ask when athletes come in is I said, well, right now, what would success look like for you? Because
Right.
that's all, it's going to be different for everyone. There are different abilities, different, I do believe there is some natural talent and some natural ability. We know that not every athlete does. And so sometimes they question, well, why can't I do that? And I'm not saying that's all. It takes a whole lot more than just, that one little factor.
Right.
But I just think this whole idea of success is important. You're right. It is great to see, and I've been seeing a lot of that lately and having a lot of fun with that. Just especially for me, because I do a lot of what I call troubleshooting. So I'll get like a call, or usually it's FaceTime, to be honest, because they want to,
Right.
and it could, I've had some runners lately, and then some swimmers as well, and they're like, even though they have these, we've been together for a while, and they have all of these tools. They just get in an kind of state where they know enough now not to move forward, but to check in. And so I always, try to make myself available, and I'll do just some really simple thing to just kind of flood the brain a little bit, in terms of not being able to think about being worried or what some athlete just said to them that's on another team or their own team, or maybe a parent, and clear that and just have them go over and compete and see what happens. It's just, and they, they'll text back and say, that weird thing you told me to do worked. I actually do love that they're still kind of questioning, what's happening, but they're optimistic and willing.
Right.
And if you're optimistic and you're willing to change that, it can take you a long way. So things like that.
Absolutely.
So the other thing is, after the highlights is, what would you like for people to know? Like some tidbits.
Absolutely.
Okay. I'm sure you do, because it was yours, not mine.
Yes.
I'm stealing it, though. I'm stealing it. Be careful.
That's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
I'm going to get it trademarked one day. But
Right.
I think 3 simple words, fun, positive, and forward. Fun, you got to have fun with what you're doing. You got to be passionate about what you're doing. You got to enjoy it. Being positive and not false positivity and oh yes, I'm so great and wonderful, but just understanding the difference between one step forward and one step back. It's so important that people understand that the positive aspects of things that they're doing, and then moving forward and focusing on what's in front of you. Learn from the past, but focus on what's next. Focus on what you need to do. So fun, positive, and forward.
Yeah, I love it. And I agree with you completely. We're working on a parenting guide together. And, I asked you and you said yes. And I am so appreciative of that because your insight is so important. And, and parents are asking for this. And that's why,
Right.
And, when there's a need, absolutely, we want to get all the information we can and share what we have and help parents.
And it's important. I mean, pretty much every parent just wants their kid to be successful.
Sure.
And every parent does it differently. And sometimes some things work better, some things don't. And, as a parent, we want so much for our kids that sometimes we're not always aware of what we're doing and saying. And so just anything to help, I think is important.
So, Jon, I'm excited to see what's going to happen next in your life, and I'll be following that closely, and I know other people will as well. The one thing I do know is it's going to be great. It's going to be great because you've already done so many great things. As I, was fortunate enough to just sit and talk with you on Monday and hear things that I never knew about you, and I knew a lot, and I just know that the next thing is going to be great. But the most important thing is that it's great for you because you deserve that.
Right. And thank you very much for that. And it's, people have asked me, oh, what are you going to do? What happens if you don't? It's like, hey, if I got to be a Walmart greeter, I'm going to be the best darn Walmart greeter there is. And I'm going to have fun doing it, and I think that's where my confidence lies in making this big change is that I know whatever I do and end up doing is I'm going to make it mine and I'm going to do it well. So, it might not be that $1 million job that we all want, but it's going to be mine and it's going to be something I choose to do. And it's going to be something I enjoy doing. So I'm looking forward to it. So it's exciting.
It is exciting. And I'll tell you this, pretty sure you're not going to be that Walmart greeter, but that would be a very, very popular Walmart. If you show up there, you can sign autographs, right?
Yeah, who knows, right? Who knows?
Well, I know. Well, we already know that the parenting success guide is going to be great. So I know
Absolutely.
that. And
Absolutely.
Anything else, and I'm hoping, this is very selfish of me. Okay. So I admit that up front. But I'm hoping whatever it is you do, you still have time to help me and help the athletes that I work with, because it's
absolutely it's always. That's one of the things I always enjoying is trying to figure out ways to help the athletes and talk to people I know and converse with people I know and enjoy being with. So yeah, absolutely. I always have time for you.
Thank you. Okay, well, I'm going to talk to Jon for a couple of minutes, but I'm going to go ahead and end the recording in just a second. But again, I want to say thank you so much for being here. You guys, I hope if you can't listen to all of this at once, you will listen to it all the way through, because Jon has some really, really great stuff to share, and he's done that with us and for us. So thank you for being here on the podcast, and have a great night.
My pleasure.
All right.